A severe weather outbreak is expected today, with widespread storms capable of very damaging winds and strong tornadoes possible. Today is a weather day that you'll want to pay very close attention to because these storms have the potential to be very impactful for your Friday evening commute across much of the plains and Midwest. We're tracking a strong trough of low pressure coming out of the Rocky Mountains into the Central Plains. You can see it very clearly up here in the north. This is drawing in a lot of energy and clashing some colder air with some warm air to result in storm formation. Widespread storms are nearly a guarantee to develop over the plains later this afternoon, and any of these storms contain very damaging winds and a particularly strong tornado risk. In addition, we're also tracking a big temperature crash behind our cold front with a lot of colder air coming in. We have a wild next few days in the weather with big time changes coming to pretty much anyone east of the Rockies. Today is Friday, April 17th. Let's immediately jump in. We've got a lot of serious weather to talk about. Here is our severe weather risk for today. I'm recording this as of Thursday evening. By the time you're waking up on Friday, this could very well be upgraded, and in fact I think there's a decent chance that somewhere in this enhanced risk we get a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk. So first, what we have, the most areas of concern from severe weather in this orange area. That's a 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather where numerous strong storms are expected. Within this, I think there's a good chance we see a corridor somewhere where we get a level 4 out of 5 risk. All this means is that this is a higher end severe weather day that you want to be paying attention to because these storms could not only be damaging, some of them could be life threatening. Even though if you're in the yellow or the green, we still want to watch out for severe weather, but the highest concerns will be from northern Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, these are some of the areas that just got pounded by severe weather from our last storm Tuesday and Wednesday. We have another potentially more significant round coming, so we need to still pay attention to the weather over some of these same areas. Let's dial in on the tornado risk. We have a few different things going on here. The colors indicate coverage, the hatched lines indicate intensities. So if you're in the brown shade, which is pretty expansive, you need to stay weather aware for tornadoes, have a way to get warnings, and have a tornado plan in place. But especially in the yellow risk, that's where the greatest coverage of tornadoes is expected, or it's more likely for some to form near where you are. Now the hatch markings, that's where strong tornadoes are possible in these dashed hatches, but especially in this area of solid hatches that are kind of going the other direction here. This is where the potential for stronger tornadoes are highest. This is a conditional 2 tornado intensity risk, meaning the Storm Prediction Center is highlighting this area for potential EF2, EF3, maybe even a few isolated higher tornadoes than that. So these types of tornadoes not only can cause damage, but could be life-threatening if caught unprepared, and these are the stronger tornadoes that unfortunately cause most of the damage. We're not saying this to scare anyone. Tornadoes are small and only hit one area. However, if that area is you, it could be very dangerous. So the best thing to do is just have a tornado plan in place and have a way to get warnings, especially in this hatched area. That's where the highest concentration of strong tornadoes is possible. The wind risk will be most widespread in this pink shade, a little further south from the tornado risk. So you can kind of see how there's some nuance here in our threats, but from Kansas City into eastern Oklahoma, southern Iowa, that's where the most widespread damaging winds are possible. But anyone in this hatched area, the Storm Prediction Center is warning for destructive wind gusts. And unfortunately, the wind threat is even a little bit more dangerous than the tornado threat in as much that it's a little more widespread. So the tornadoes are isolated, they only hit that one area. If we get a Boeing line of damaging winds, everyone in the path of the damaging winds could be impacted and could see some damage. So stay weather aware. I'll walk through the timing in a minute, and it's definitely possible we get some sort of upgrade in here, both in intensity and in probability for this wind threat. Let's run through some of the ingredients in place that's causing me to be very concerned about the severe weather later today. So first of all, the energy is going through the roof into this afternoon. I've overlaid the map, the severe weather risk, with the energy, the convective available potential energy, and look at this afternoon. We get this very expansive corridor of very high Cape values. One of the reasons why this storm is so energetic is the air aloft in the atmosphere is cold. The bigger the temperature difference between the surface, the ground, and the atmosphere, the stronger storms can get. The warm air at the surface rises, and the colder the air is aloft, the more it encourages and promotes updraft development, and these are the foundation for storms. So all that cold air in the atmosphere clashing with some of the warm air coming in at the surface, that's just providing a lot of instability, and storms will really be able to tap into this and explode in a big way later in this afternoon. We're also expecting very strong winds aloft. This is several thousand feet in the atmosphere. Look, as our trough ejects, we get this streak of very impressive winds. What this means is the stronger the winds in the atmosphere, this creates more wind shear. So this allows storms to have more energy to rotate, especially if these winds are coming in opposite directions as the winds at the surface. Also, the stronger the winds higher in the atmosphere, something at the surface has to replace all that fast moving air, and this can really encourage lift and ventilate storms. If any of these storms can tap into some of this wind and bring it down to the surface, that's where the damaging wind threat really gets maximized. So these very strong winds are bad not only for the tornado risk, but also for the straight line damaging wind threat. Finally, let's take a look at the significant tornado parameter. I've overlaid the tornado risk on the screen here, and we can see that the tornado risk is really highest in that double hatch 10% probability risk across portions of the Midwest. This is the area that we really need to watch out. This is where the best environmental factors, the energy, the wind shear, the rotation in the atmosphere, they're all going to come together here. And I do think we could have a few long tracks, stronger end tornadoes possible. So just another emphasis that the ingredients are in place, and this is a real deal. We are concerned about a severe weather outbreak across the plains later today. Here it is on radar. Let's see how these storms are going to look. We're going to be quiet up till noon. Before noon, no storms are expected. After noon though, I would say after 2 to 3 o'clock, storms are going to bubble up very fast, and it's kind of a blink and you'll miss it. Look at this, from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Look how many more storms develop in just that hour. Now some of these storms across the north and Iowa, Wisconsin, across that high tornado risk, I'm really concerned about the initial onset of these supercells. This is where the tornado threat and the risk for any strong individual tornadoes is really the highest, and these storms will flare up so quickly. It's going to go from just a blip on the radar to a full out supercell in just a matter of minutes. Make sure in this area you have a plan in place, because these storms will come very quickly and catch many people off guard. Zooming in, no model is perfect, but even the look on these cells that the HRRR is modeling, this is classic supercell look, where we're even getting a bit of a hook echo here on this high resolution model. So we don't often get a look like this on this model this far out in advance, and any of these individual cells here could carry some strong tornadoes. This is a prime area where you need to stay weather aware. Friday afternoon. A little bit further south though, some of these individual cells are also problematic. With time though, it'll quickly evolve into a damaging wind threat. Notice as the storms move east, they quickly conglomerate into this line, and this is where all that very strong winds high up in the atmosphere can get translated down to the surface. Now the tornado risk will actually remain when our line forms. It'll just change shape a little bit. So instead of being individual discrete strong tornadoes, now we're looking at QLCS tornadoes, which are little embedded rotations within our line, and these are very hard to predict where they're formed. They spin up and spin down very fast, but they can still cause damage. Also within this line, this is still where that widespread damaging, even destructive wind gusts are possible. So it's an all hazard severe weather day, but it's safe to say this will be a severe weather outbreak across this region. So this is 7 o'clock. As we go later into the evening, the storms will advance east, still a widespread segment, potentially a few segments of damaging wind gusts. The model is showing some of these Boeing echoes here, which is not a good look. This is where particularly strong wind gusts are possible. As things move east, as we get deeper into the night, storms will eventually weaken. So past midnight, the severe weather threat will really start waning, and then it's just more of a mess of storms moving to the east as some cooler and drier air advects in behind our cold front. Saturday still does carry a severe weather risk. It's way less than today. Today is looking like a very impactful day. Tomorrow is more scattered, but a few severe storms possible across the Ohio Valley. Keep an eye out for that. A broader area of thunderstorms, non-severe thunderstorms, are possible all the way from Texas up into New York along the cold front. Rain and showers will continue to push off to the southeast. So tracking the continuation of rain, it's going to be a wet day anywhere from Texas, Arkansas, moving into Mississippi. Notice we could have a few stronger storms possible. Maybe a marginal risk of severe weather will be implemented. Most of these storms will behave though. Just some beneficial rain across many areas, seeing drought, and a big change with some colder and much drier air coming in behind that. Not only is the storm threat strong, but this cold front is looking pretty strong. We'll talk about that in a minute. There is a slight flood risk associated with the system, especially in the yellow area. Storms will be pretty quickly moving, but we could have a few training areas, and we have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. So a quick 1 to 2 isolated 3 inches of rain is possible, and some minor to potentially moderate flood issues, maybe some river rises, low water crossings closing. Watch out not only for the severe risk, but for some flooding storms possible as well. Still keep an eye on the rivers just in case we get some ponding. Alright, so along the front, those storms will be very significant, but behind the front, we also have a big change coming that I've been hinting at. Much colder air. We can see it all bottled up. This will be spreading across the country. One of the reasons why the severe weather threat is so high is because we have such a big difference between the warm, moist air ahead of the front and the much colder air behind it, and this difference is what's really fueling our storm energy. So notice the cold air overspreading the country on the day Saturday. It's going to feel a lot different than the humid air mass we have been as that cold front sweeps through really much of the country east of the Rockies. This weekend, once the storm is past, it's going to feel much different with some of these cooler temperatures. So you can see the front very clearly on the map. You don't need me to point it out, but here it is. 40s and 30s behind it, 60s and 70s ahead of it. Be prepared for the sharply colder temperatures coming in afterwards. A few hours after storms depart, we could be dropping to the upper 30s and low 40s. So it's going to feel winter-like behind it. Saturday morning, look at this hard freeze across the plains. Growing season has started across many of these areas, so this is bad news for early vegetation, early gardens. We could be well into the 20s. The front will continue advancing on Sunday, so we have some very cool 50s running in, and all the 70s and 80s ahead of the front. They quickly get erased as we make quick progress. By Sunday morning, widespread 30s and 40s across most of the country. A bit of a warm up on Sunday, but still 60s and 70s will be cooler. And not only will it be cooler, it'll be drier. The air mass will feel so different. Look at all this humid air that's fueling these storms today. Well, once that cold front comes, this drier air mass behind is going to feel so different, much more refreshing, much more pleasant, especially with that crisp chill in the air. So I think many of us, including myself, will like this change. We do have to pay the price though of some of those strong storms before this arrives. I do want to briefly look deeper into the future though, into the next weather systems ahead that we're tracking. So here are those strong to severe storms that are coming later today and tomorrow. The storms will be clearing off to the east Saturday and Sunday with some of that colder and drier air filtering in. It'll take a bit after that for our atmosphere to recharge. So we have a bit of a quieter period to start the week. Some showers across Texas are possible. Here's our next storm coming though across the west coast. We can see rain moving across California, the Pacific Northwest, overspreading some of the Rockies, and eventually some of this energy will make it back into the plains. This will be when severe weather risk returns. Now the GFS model is saying this occurs a week away, so anything this far out, there's still a lot of room to change. Takeaway though is we do have a quieter period ahead early next week, and it'll be several days until we're tracking our next system. So after we get through today, we can take a bit of a breather and enjoy some of the more refreshing, chillier air that's coming in. But yeah, until we get there, very impactful weather today. We really just want to make sure no one is caught off guard by this. If we have plans in place, if we're aware and paying attention to the weather, that could be a huge difference in your outcome in the event that a severe storm or even a tornado forms near you. So with the right precautions and plans in place, let's hope that these storms can stay contained, but we do want to prepare for the worst, especially for that strong tornado risk, which does look pretty concerning across the north. Hope everyone stays safe out there. If you never want to be caught off guard by the weather, consider subscribing. Other than that, watch out for those storms, and I'll see you next time.